So this is a week-long readathon that takes place. Thank you! And then occasionally there are letters between our characters that are like, I don't even know how to explain this to you. Hello everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with Do the Thing-a-thon. Week-long readathon that I'm participating that was created by Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction. It's all about reading the books that you've been putting off and that you've been meaning to do, or some of the goals you set at the beginning of the year that you've been meaning to, get to, and it's half the way through the year. So I will leave an announcement video down below if you are curious about it at all. But I decided to vlog this last week, so that's what I'm doing. I'm actually starting this vlog a day early because technically it starts tomorrow, and I won't read anything until tomorrow. But I will not have time to start this vlog in the morning, so we're going to start it on Sunday instead, just to give you guys kind of an idea of what I'm going to be doing this week. So I have 3 books that I am trying to prioritize this week. The first one that I've actually technically already started, but that is Mary B. by Catherine J. Chin. This one was actually on my TBR for May, but it's also in the list of books that I want to read by the end of 2021. So I'm gonna put this one in really quick. I've read the first chapter, I believe, so I'm only about 20 pages into this book. I do have the audiobook of this, so I will be plowing into this one first. But yeah, I want to get this one done because it's technically the only one on this TBR that's on my May TBR, and I've put this one off this month so that I could have it for this readathon as well. So that's my goal. This is basically a retelling of, I guess reimagining is a better way to phrase it, of kind of the Bennet sisters from Pride and Prejudice. This one specifically follows Mary, who is the middle sister, and she basically gets no page time almost at all, and people kind of forget that she's there. And so this is her story. And I do believe it takes place before, during, and after the events of A Pride and Prejudice. Prologue has already made me very angry for her, because people forget she exists. But anyway, that's my plan. I just want to kind of see what this author has done with her story. And then the other 2 books that I'm planning on reading this month, I do have one on audiobook, and then one I'm going to have to read it physically, are books that I've put on multiple TBRs. One of them is on my list of books to read by the end of 2021, so that one does help me out there. But both of these have been on multiple TBRs in the last year alone. So the one that I have on audiobook is Lovely War by Julie Berry. This is a story that kind of follows 2 couples during the time of World Wars I and II, but it's from the perspective of Greek gods, specifically Aphrodite and I believe Ares. I think she's telling Ares the story of how she interacted with these humans and kind of helped them in their respective romances. But it's set to the background of these 2 world wars. I've heard great things about this. Like I said, it's been on multiple TBRs. I think I got it in a TBR jar at one point. It was a group read for a readathon that I was participating in at one point. It's been on so many TBRs. So I'm gonna finally do it. I'm gonna finally get to it. Like I said, I do have the audiobook of this, which will help a ton. But I just like the idea of it being set kind of as these Greek gods telling their story. So that's what fascinates me about this. But I'm finally gonna do it, dang it. This has been on way too many TBRs. And the last one that I'm hoping to read, and that is Soul of Stars by Ashley Poston. This is the sequel to Heart of Iron, which I actually need to look up the synopsis of it because I've forgotten a lot of what happened in that one. But this is the finale / sequel. It's a duology, and it's kind of a reimagining of the story of Anastasia, but set in space. I'm pretty sure this is one of the first books that I ever really pre-ordered, and it's just, I've been so excited for it so long that now I've completely forgotten what happened in the first book. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get to this one. I do not have an audiobook of it that I can find, but there might be one on Audible. That's my other plan, is to get to that one. So these are the 3 priorities this week. We'll see what happens. I'll keep you updated. Like most vlogs that I do in my life now, this will be mostly probably a weekend vlog rather than a week-long vlog, just because of my work schedule. But we do have Memorial Day weekend coming up, so I'm hoping that I can at least get through these 2 this week, and then I can, you know, dedicate my weekend to maybe this one. But that's my plan. So yeah, come along with me and see how it goes. Hello, it is, I have no idea what day it is, Tuesday? Yes, this is the second day of the Do the Thing-a-thon, and I have updates because I have finished a book and I have started another. Technically, I've started a second one too. Today at work, I ended up finishing Mary B by Catherine J. Chin. I ended up giving this one 3 stars, which honestly feels generous because I have a lot of thoughts about this book. First off, it was all over the place. The beginning was like ridiculously boring to the point of like I was questioning why I was continuing with this and hoping that it was going to get better. This is told in 3 separate parts. So part 1 takes place before to the beginning of Pride and Prejudice. It's mostly about when Mr. Collins comes to visit. The second part takes place after Lizzie and Darcy have been married, and Mary goes to stay at Pemberley for a few months with them, and then part 3 is after that. So like part 1 was super boring. It did have a Mary Collins situation, which I was happy to see because I always thought that they would have worked together well. But after that, it just kind of went downhill. My biggest problem is that it felt like the author took these characters that we've had books about and books to love and completely twisted them so that she could have her story and made them fit her plot, and they didn't feel true to the characters. Now, Mary herself didn't have a whole lot of information in the original Pride and Prejudice, so like she had a lot to work with Mary's character, but all the others were pretty well, you know, figured out who they were, specifically like Lizzie and Darcy. And in this book, she just completely like twisted who they are, and I felt like I was reading different characters. I felt like these were not the characters that we came to know in Pride and Prejudice. There are some situations in here that I was like, okay, that could logically happen, but specifically 4 characters, Darcy, Lizzie, Georgiana, and Fitzwilliam, Colonel Fitzwilliam, Darcy's cousin, who shows up for like a split second in the original when they're at Rosings, and he's the one who tells Lizzie that Darcy broke up Jane and Bingley. And so he's like super sweet and nice. And in this book, he's a total dick. Georgiana's a complete terrible person. And in like what she does, the author, what she does to Lizzie and Darcy completely ruined it for me. And while yes, I do love these characters, and even though she put them in situations that I'm not happy with, I still feel like she took these characters and completely twisted them into different things. And some of these characters are doing certain things, and I'm like, but that person wouldn't do that thing. So it's not realistic to me. So I don't know, it felt weird. Now, if you take it out of context with being compared to Pride and Prejudice, I feel like it's still an okay book. I guess what I'm saying is very disappointed with how this turned out. I think this author is a good author because this did feel like Jane Austen could have written it, at least in the beginning, before she like twisted all these characters in different situations. But like at the beginning, as far as her actual writing goes, I feel like it felt close-ish to Jane Austen, close enough to like what you're going to get in like a modern day setting. Now, this is her debut, so I'm interested to see what other things she comes out with, because I think if she creates a book that's not compared to a classic or not reimagined of a classic or, you know, something like that, then maybe, but like this is not tempting me to pick anything else up by her, which is very sad because this cover is really pretty. I like the cover. I like the idea of taking Mary's story, but I just don't like what she did with it. And again, I don't think that is simply because I don't actually like what she did. I just don't think it's believable for the characters that we know from Pride and Prejudice. So yeah, it's just, yeah. So I'm gonna give it 3 stars, but it's a very low 3-star. So like that's a sad way to start off the week. But I've had this for a while, so I'm glad I can finally read it and be done with it. I'm not sure I hate it enough to unhaul it quite yet, but it might go if I need room on my shelves. Strong feelings about that. But as you saw last night, I actually did start Soul of Stars. I got to page 32, so like not very far into it, but a little bit into it. And it's fascinating to me because I couldn't find a spoilery kind of spark noted synopsis of the first book, but I read the dust jacket of this book kind of mentions a little bit what happens at the end of the last book, and she does a very good job of reminding you, so I'm there. I remember a lot of things now. Now I know there's like small situations that like it does not spark, but all of the important things are there, and I'm back in. The action starts almost like, not quite right away, but like relatively quickly into this book. We see a lot of our characters, like the main characters. They do mention a couple of characters I feel like that were important in the first book, but like they're not there. It's just like quick mentions of them, and I have no idea who they are. So all of the like smaller secondary characters, they're gonna have to tell me who they are because I don't remember. And it's only happened a couple of them. Most of them, it's like they'll tell you right away who that person is. So that sparks my memory. But I would suggest not waiting a long time between these two, like I did, because I've forgotten quite a lot. With that being said, I'm still really enjoying it. I haven't had much time to read, so I'm hoping to get a few more chapters done tonight, sometime before bed. But, you know, very much enjoying this one from what I can, having quite literally barely started this book. But I did actually at work end up picking up Lovely War, or the audiobook of Lovely War by Julie Berry. I'm barely into this one as well. I read the first couple of chapters. They're not really chapters, they're like sectioned off. So we've got Overture, we've got Acts 1 through 4, I believe, is how this is sectioned. Oh no, there's 5. And then there's the last kind of section. We've got the overture, acts 1 through 5, and then it has exit music at the end, which is kind of fascinating. I like how they've created this, or formatted this like a play. So within that, then you have like your smaller sections that are just like dates. So I've done the first 2. So I've made it to page 10. So not a whole lot has happened in here, but I'm very interested because we're seeing the Greek gods. Like, for example, we've seen Aphrodite, we've seen Ares. Oh shoot, who's the other guy that her actual husband? Now I've forgotten what his name is. Hold on, I think it's Hephaestus. Well, it's the 3 of them, and Hephaestus puts Aphrodite and Ares on trial because Aphrodite sleeps around, and so like Hephaestus and Ares are brothers, and Hephaestus found the 2 of them together in a hotel room, and that's quite literally the only things that have happened so far. But I noticed that throughout this book, she tells the story of these lovers that she's been kind of not manipulating. I don't want to say like manipulating, but helping out maybe during these wars. I don't actually know where we're gonna go, but it's fun. I like it. It definitely gives me kind of like, I know it's not set in the 20s, it's set in the 40s, but it gives me that kind of like 20s to 40s older vibe, and I'm very excited about it. So yeah, so far so good. Expect to get quite a lot more of this one done tomorrow. So I have officially started the last 2 that I would like to read during the remainder of this vlog, which have been on all of my TBRs. So many. But I'm making progress, and I'm actually pretty proud of how I've done this, because it's 2 days in, and I barely started this one, and now it's complete. This one is a little bit chunkier, so I expect this one to take the next 2 if I listen to it on audiobook and maybe a little bit of Friday, and then I expect this one will be my weekend. But yeah, that's my update. Not the best of starts, but these are both very promising, so I'm excited to continue. We are very, very curly today. Interesting. Hello! It is Friday morning and I have updates for you. As you can see, I'm at home. I work from home on Fridays, and also it's Memorial Day weekend, so today is a half day anyway. And then also I don't have that much to do because it's a half day, and I've basically done everything that I can right now. So I'm here to give you some updates. I have finished a book and I've gotten pretty far in the other one. So I ended up finishing Lovely War by Julie Berry yesterday. It was very, very good. It was not as incredible as I thought it was going to be, but with that said, it still got 4 stars, so like it was still really, really good. And I think my favorite thing about this book is the way that it was written. I think it was so incredibly creatively put together because of how it was formatted. So like I've said kind of before, this is a story that takes place primarily during World War I. I said 1 and 2, but it takes primarily during World War I. And it follows these 2 couples and their stories being told by the Greek gods. Which is, that is true, but it's a little more complex than that because it starts with Aphrodite and Ares and Hephaestus. Hephaestus kind of puts them on trial almost, and so Aphrodite is telling the story, and the story is these 2 couples in World War II, or World War I. And so we've got her telling the story of these two couples, but she also calls in all these other gods, because so she's the goddess of beauty and love and that kind of thing. Ares is the god of war. She calls in Apollo, who is the god of like everything, but primarily in this book he's the god of like art and stuff like that. Art, music, culture, that kind of thing. And then she calls in Hades as well, who obviously is the god of the underworld. And so she has them come in and help her tell the story to Hephaestus. And it's fascinating because there's so many different layers to this book, where like you've got the normal story that she's telling of all of these people, but like you've got all these different gods adding layers on it. So this is a full cast recording. Every single god is a different character. We've got a narrator as well, and then there's also a few letters back and forth in this from the people that these gods are telling the story about, and so like those are different characters or narrators as well. And so it's fascinating. I highly recommend the audiobook if this book sounds interesting to you. But I think the story, it's beautiful, it's heartbreaking because it takes place during war. It's about love at a time of war. The war scenes are not, A, they're not that descriptive, which I appreciated, and B, they're not that, there's not too many of them. Like there's not pages and pages and pages of them at the front, them waiting in the trenches. You know, there is that, but like that's not the point. The point is this story of all of these people and how they, you know, all these four people kind of get to know each other and how they're all interlaced within, like their stories are interlaced within each other. Also, one of the characters, which I found really interesting, is a mixed couple, because you have a black boy from the South in the US and a Belgian white woman, and the two of them, like they're one of the couples. And so you have that as well. So there's a lot of talk of race at this time, because the black man is part of one of the US black only like infantries that were put together to help the war, but 9 times out of 10 they were just brought over to do all the labor and they weren't actually fighting. And so we follow one of the guys who is in like a band. There's a lot to do with music in here, because 3 out of the 4 of our main characters do music in some way. Like one of them plays piano, one of them sings, one of them is in a jazz band and can play piano but also does other things and composes. And so like there's a lot about music in here, which I did not expect going into it. But I really enjoyed this because it definitely takes all of the different turns, and I didn't expect a lot of the things that happen in here. But like I said, my favorite part is the way that this is formatted, the way that this is told, the layers on top of it, because not only do you have this trial and the story of these 4 people, but also there's like this subplot of like what's happening with the gods, and like there's more than just them being put on trial. But it was so well done. I'm so happy that I finally read this book. Like I said, I gave it 4 stars. It was incredible. My heart is happy. And I highly, highly recommend this story, because it's a story of World War I, but it's in such a unique way, and there's so much to it. But like at the same time, you're not overwhelmed with stuff. You're just kind of like along for the ride, and it's fantastic. So I highly, highly recommend this book. So that is the book I finished. So great. 2 out of the 3 that I meant to read this week is done. And then the last one that I'm hoping to get through sometime this week is Soul of Stars. So I am on page 125. I've been trying to read this at night before going to bed. Now I do have a lot of time this weekend because it is an extended weekend, but also I have some time today, and I would like to actually watch some of the reading sprints, because every single time one of the reading sprints happens, it's like 2 p.m. where I live, because it's UK time versus US time, so I can never do it because I'm at work. But I'm at home today, and there's one at 2, but I'm also hoping to put on the one that Ashley and Gavin did on Wednesday, because that one looked like a lot of fun, and it's saved on, I believe, his channel. So I'd like to just go watch that one again and then use it to read more of this, because like I'm very confused still by some things that are happening. Like I know I'm forgetting things, but at the same time the plot is just like ticking along that like I'm okay with that. And there are things that have happened in the first 100 pages that are stressing me out, okay? That's where I'm at. So I need to do my June bullet journal at some point this weekend, not bullet journal, reading journal, because I just haven't done it yet and I need to do it. So maybe I'll listen and do that in between. Like maybe I'll read this during the sprints, and then like when they're talking, I'll use that time to do the bullet journal. Oh, I think I just came up with a plan. But that's an update. That's where we're at today. I'm actually about to head out because I want coffee, specifically Dunkin'. My husband got a gift card for Dunkin', and he doesn't do coffee, so all of the coffee gift cards that he gets from students or like Teacher Appreciation Week and stuff like that come to me. So I'm very excited about that, but I've been craving it for a little bit. So I think I'm gonna go grab that, and then we'll settle, get comfy, and read. Hi, can I get a small iced coffee with mocha and cream and a chocolate frosted donut, please? Thank you. Hello, so it's actually Monday, today, so the day after this readathon technically ends. So we're wrapping it up today instead. So I basically had no free time to do anything yesterday at all, so I didn't really read, but it's the end of the readathon, so I'm here to wrap it up. I actually did end up finishing Soul of Stars today, so not in time for the readathon, but I still finished it, so I'm happy about that, and I thought I'd, you know, mention a little bit about it. I think it was mostly done anyway. I had like less than 100 pages to read today anyway, but I ended up giving this one, I think it's, I don't remember if it was 4 or 4.5, I can't remember what my co-pile system said, but it's one of those. I really enjoyed it. This definitely gave me a lot of the feels that I remember from the first one. I am upset that I waited this long to read it, just because I was very confused through most of this book. Even though like some things were sparked in my memory, there were still things that I was like, I don't remember why this is happening or what this is or what this callback situation is. But as far as the actual plot, it was like you were doing stuff the entire time. There was no like downtime throughout this book. You were just like continually doing things, and that was fun. I docked it a little bit because of the fact that I had to wait, or that I waited so long, so like that's on me. But there's also a lot of like grammatical things in this book that I was noticing, which I don't usually notice, but it took me out of the story. This is like a first edition of this book, but it's a first, like it's a finished copy, so like there shouldn't be double words and like things that I'm noticing more than once, especially for someone like me who doesn't notice that stuff very often. If I'm noticing it, then it's very apparent, I feel like. So not the best as far as editing goes. This probably needed a little bit more editing before it came out, but still enjoyed it. It didn't get a full 5 stars from me. This was definitely one of the books that was on my 5-star prediction list, but I think that's because I've read a bunch since I read the first one. I think I've matured as a reader since I've read the first one, and so this one to me is not as amazing as the first one was. Hello.
Hi.
You gonna sit there and watch me? Yeah. I feel like I've matured as a reader since I've read the first one, so this felt very YA to me, which is fine. It's just I've read some things that are, in my opinion, better written than this, so it didn't get like top tier, but it was still really good. I'm glad I've read it. I've had it for multiple years. It's been on multiple TBRs, and we've finally done it. So I would say this week was a success. I read all 3 books that I was planning on reading. I have a 3-star, a 4, if not a 5. Like, I think I'm going to bump this up, to be honest. So at least a 4.5 to a 5-star, and then also a 4-star. I'll take it. This was fun. I very much enjoyed this readathon. I hope she does this again, because I need this in my life to force me to read things that I've been meaning to read for years. So this was fun. But that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed. If you also took part in this readathon, let me know down below how you did on your reading, what you ended up reading. Let me know. But if you did like this video, and I very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you want to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media as well as other fun bookish links down there, so don't forget to go check all of those out. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye! I'm gonna keep all of that in.